Thank you for joining us for today's webinar. My name is Fiona Chow, and I'm the Senior Marketing Manager at SailPoint, the leader in identity management. Today, we are honored to have our customer guest speaker, Fiona Cullen, IT Service Manager in Identity Access and Management from Aurora, Australia, one of the leading packaging solutions company in Australia, who will share her experience in IT governance. After her session, you will see a use case demo by SailPoint and more SAP governance best practices sharing from Turnkey. Just a little housekeeping before we get started. This webinar will be recorded and presentation slides will be available for playback afterwards. If you have any questions during the presentation, please type them into the question box in your Zoom control panel. We'll bring them up at the end of each presentation sessions. Now, we will turn the time over to Fiona Cullen. Fiona, please.
Thank you very much, Fiona. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Yes, okay, thank you. Firstly, I'd like to say thank you to both Turnkey and SailPoint for inviting me to be part of this presentation and share my story with you. It is an honour to really be asked, and thank you very much for that. So to just move on and give you a brief introduction about myself. So Fiona Cullen is my name, and my role is the Identity and Access Management Service Manager. Up until a couple of days ago, that was with Aurora Limited, which was a global packaging company. And as of the 1st of May, I'm now part of an organisation called Opal Packaging. So a large portion of the Aurora business has been purchased by another company, and now we are known as Opal Packaging. So I'm performing the same role, just really under a different company name. So I've been in that role for 5 years now. And I started off in that role at Aurora as the SAP Security and Compliance Lead. And now I've moved into Identity and Access Management and Governance. So I have around 15 years of IT governance experience, mainly an SAP Security and Compliance background. So prior to the role that I've been in for 5 years, I lived overseas in London for 18 years, and a large portion of that I was working for IBM and worked mostly on a Shell global SAP rollout. So I've got quite a bit of experience with SOX controls and heavy SAP usage. I've also just provided my LinkedIn details there if anybody wanted to connect on LinkedIn, and happy to take any questions outside of this session if anybody would like to contact me. So I thought I'd give you an overview of common challenges. This is not specific to any particular company that I've worked. It's actually quite general and goes across most organisations that I've worked at. So some of the challenges are having a high number of user accounts across multiple systems. And at the moment, having multiple SAP systems, whether they be on-premise or cloud instances. Having a lack of account ownership throughout the landscape, whether it be SAP or an increased landscape. Where I'm working now, we've just had to split around 200 IT systems. So it's not really just SAP, it's account ownership throughout the landscape, which is generally a problem, but obviously SAP has a strong focus there. We've had a history of relaxed security controls overall. This is what I've seen going into organisations, where you see a lot of inherited access or access creep as we know it, people's accounts being copied over, and you don't know how many jobs someone's had before their account gets copied over. So really people are getting a lot more access than they should, but really don't have a lot of visibility to it, and we don't know what we don't know. So if we haven't got a tool that tells us all of those entitlements, then really it's just a deep black hole. And another issue that we've had is not having a single pane of glass view of accounts and access and entitlements across multiple systems. You'd normally have to go into every different system and run different kinds of reports and then try and consolidate all of that, which is a very time-consuming process. A challenge has been having multiple different certification processes, so that your access reviews, which of course we have to do for governance purposes, quarterly or monthly or whatever they may be, differing by location, by company, by site, by business unit, by system and by process. For one SAP system, you might have PDFs being sent out and people have to provide their comments on a PDF file and send it back, and somebody has to interpret those comments. Or you might have a number of large Excel files getting sent out, and the more cumbersome this process is, the less likely it is that people would really put a lot of effort into providing their feedback. You have the challenges where you've got these governance processes being performed by highly skilled resources. You might have somebody who's got 10, 15 years of really good solid experience, but they're spending a lot of their times going through quite detailed user access reviews, spreadsheets, etc. So we really wanted to make the whole process for governance user-friendly and fast as well. And as I touched on before, the tedious and cumbersome effort that's required to maintain governance in your systems can ultimately lead to non-compliance or a lack of thorough review because the effort is so time-consuming. Some challenges that I've seen is an incomplete termination process. So companies may have a good handle on who their employees are through HR or payroll systems, but a lot of companies have issues with contractors and a lack of visibility there. And certainly I've seen concerns with the termination process not being complete. Contractors leave, but the manager forgets to submit a termination request, and then that leads to accounts being open and consuming licenses in the system for however long. So what we've found with Identity Now, the access certification campaigns that will be sent out, it remains a very good way to capture these accounts and then allows you to deprovision as well. Otherwise, there would really be no visibility of that. And another thing is the SOD policies. So certainly with SAP, you can integrate with GRC, but if you want to apply those policies across multiple systems, SailPoint really provides that solution for you. You might be able to perform a function in one system and then you go and perform a conflicting function in a separate system. So we really wanted a product that allows us to apply our policies across various different systems. Some of the challenges that we've seen is that certainly in terms of access certification and user reviews, a lot of the times people are just verifying that the account exists and not actually able to see what that access does provide. So we really wanted a tool that we were able to tell the business what access people have so that they could then make qualified decisions on whether that access should be retained or not. Some of the issues as well relates to not being able to highlight privileged access for users. So if somebody has user administration or can create a vendor, we wanted to be able to highlight that to the business so that they could say whether access is appropriate or not. As we all know, audits, internal, external, are very labour intensive, and I've often spent weeks and weeks providing samples to auditors, searching for tickets, checking through emails and storing the evidence. So that is a really time-consuming task and takes up a lot of people's valuable time that could be sort of spent doing other things. So we wanted a tool that was going to really assist us with that audit process. and also a lack of role-based access control across various SAP systems. So it might be easy enough to implement a role-based access control in one SAP system, but if an end user has got access to 3 different SAP systems, we also wanted to maintain role-based access control for all of those systems. So moving on to some of the drivers for implementing SailPoint identity governance, we wanted to improve the security, obviously, as well as reduce risk. But one thing that we tend to sort of forget about is enhancing the end user experience. We focus on all the other areas, but really we wanted to make everything easier for our business as well. And by doing so, we wanted one consistent approach for identity governance across all of our applications to increase a better user experience. And my advice certainly would be to start small. So maybe just take one SAP system, apply the level of governance that you want through SailPoint, get your business on board and familiar, and get to a stage where you're having them ask you for more rather than perhaps bombarding with various different systems and processes all at once. My advice is just to start small and keep it simple to get that business buy-in. Another driver was that we wanted a product that could, as well as doing the access certifications, it could also do the automatic deprovisioning as well, because it's cutting out that extra manual task of the certification coming in, someone having to analyze it, and then someone or another person having to go and deprovision the accounts. And one of the drivers was the business. The business want this. So every year at the companies that I've worked for, there's been an IT customer satisfaction survey. And what I've seen is managers and reviewers wanting a much easier process to review their access. They also want to have the ability to go and find out, even on a daily basis, what kind of access is assigned to their team members across systems. We also wanted visibility of orphaned or unused accounts, and they're the accounts that I touched on before. They remain dormant. They consume license cost as well as increasing security. And as we all know, SAP licenses don't come cheap. So we really wanted to be able to see which accounts are being used and then able to address those accounts that are actually not in use. We wanted to remove the IT or the tech language from all of the processes so that we were able to provide decision makers with meaningful information. So sometimes SAP roles or transactions may not mean anything to somebody who's put in a position where they have to make a decision about that. So with SailPoint, you can actually go in and translate that into more business-friendly language, which has been really good. We also enjoy the flexibility to be able to search for certain attributes or features through the elastic search feature, which I think is relatively new, and we'll get to see that later on in the demonstration. We wanted to be able to schedule reviews, so again, access certifications, which is a huge thing for us, at fixed intervals, whether they be quarterly or monthly to meet your regulatory requirements, or ad hoc as well. So quite often I'll get walk-ups with people asking me to find out who has access to a certain function, and then we'll have the ability to be able to do that search and provide the information in a business-friendly manner. As I touched on a little bit earlier, also wanted a product that will allow us to tag and monitor privileged access. That's a really useful feature. And generate cross-application rules for separation of duties. So like I touched on earlier, cross-application separation of duties policies is something that we needed. We also wanted system managed reminders for due and overdue certification. So we wanted to take IT out of the administration and policing process. So that's a great feature, is that reminders are sent to business people about completing their overdue tasks. So just really an overview of some of the main reasons why we chose SailPoint Identity Now. Mainly because of the automation, and it has a very user-friendly interface for automated workflows, be they access requests or access certifications, the automated provisioning and deprovisioning of access, and the automated audit reporting, which really will significantly reduce the amount of time and effort that's spent on annual or frequent audits. We wanted the flexibility to connect to any data source, so whether that be an SAP on-prem or cloud application or any other ERP application for that matter, or cloud-based product. We wanted the user-friendly ad hoc elastic search feature that I just mentioned, and we'll see in the demonstration, and also the ability to delegate and forward on any workflow features for access certification. So if a certification goes to one particular manager and they don't feel that they're qualified to make that decision on whether access should be retained, that can then be forwarded on to a more appropriate approver. And obviously, there's the overarching security element of it. We wanted compliant access through the visibility of accounts and entitlement levels for all users. We wanted to reduce rogue and orphaned accounts, and as well as excessive access levels, and wanted to monitor those privileged entitlements that are referred to. So you can easily tag access or entitlements as privileged. Oh, and that's it from me.
Thanks, Fiona, for your insightful sharing. Before we entered into the next sessions of use case demo by Sobi Chacol, our senior sales engineer from SailPoint, I would like to take a 1 minute break for a polling, a mini survey around all the participants' companies' ERP landscape, and what are your major concerns for now. So you will see from Q&A screen, there was a poll where you can take a survey. It's just 2 questions in there. And then Sobi will be framing his next, his upcoming use case demo around the survey findings. Is everyone able to view the poll in Q&A?
Okay, Fiona, we will end the poll.
Okay. Are you able to see the findings now, Sobi?
Yes, I can. Yes.
Okay, over to you.
Okay, you're able to see my screen, right?
Yes.
Thanks, Fiona. I'll take it from here. Welcome, everyone. Thanks for joining me today. I'm Sobi Chako, Senior Sales Engineer at SailPoint. I'm really excited to take you through some of the highlights of our integration with SAP ecosystem. This is intended to be a very high-level overview, so let's get right to it. I'm sure many of you are aware of the fact that SailPoint provides the most comprehensive risk-based identity governance and administration platform in the market today, empowering the organizations to govern access to all users across all applications and all data in the cloud and on-premise. So in the context of today's session, I will be showing some examples of how we can help organizations achieve effective governance control over the SAP ecosystem, focusing on lifecycle management in terms of provisioning and access requests to SAP, segregation of duty policies, certifications, and access reviews. So let's go right into the demonstration. Okay, so you're seeing my new screen now, right?
Yes.
Thank you. So we will start with lifecycle management through the lens of the manager requesting access on behalf of one of their employees. So one of the key challenges with managing access in SAP is the difficulty in making sure you're requesting access to the right SAP environment. So at the minimum, either is typically a development, a QA, or production SAP environment. And within each of those can exist a complex combination of SAP systems and clients, and each combination may have same or different SAP roles that users can have access to. So let's look at how SailPoint make the SAP access request process easy for the people to find the right SAP environment and entitlements to request access for. So first, let's take a look at the identity that we are going to focus on this part. So for that, I'll click on View Identity. So well, we start that by going into our identity warehouse. And the user we are going to pick on today is Aaron. And let's go and take a look at how an identity cube of a user looks like. So I click on Manage Identity. If you look at Aaron's accounts, that he has a number of accounts in the enterprise. He's having human resources, he's having Active Directory, he's having some custom applications like TRAKK as well. But he doesn't have SAP account yet or SAP access. So let me go back to home. So let's begin that access request process. I can initiate that pretty easily from my dashboard here. I can click on Manage Access. The access request process from SailPoint is very straightforward. With our shopping cart style experience, we simply need to select our users, the access we want them to have, and then review and submit, as simple as that. As I mentioned, we are going to make an access request on behalf of Aaron here. So I click Select Aaron and click on Next. Note a couple of things here. Aaron needs to be able to create customer records in SAP. That is his job function. But he does not have an account yet. So what if we have a complex SAP landscape? How do I even know I'm requesting access within the right SAP environment? We make it simple through what we call hierarchy visualization. So let's look at how it looks like. So I click on filters and select hierarchy here. For the SAP environment that are connected to with our native SAP connector, we automatically build that hierarchy. And we make it easy for the users to select the right environment. So now you can see, as I select each node, we clearly visualize the connected SAP systems and clients. And so Aaron needs access to that environment. So for example, I need access to this 100. I can just select node and click on apply. And when I search the access I need Aaron to have, I know for certain that I'm doing it within the context of the correct SAP environment. And look for this entitlement. And as you are probably aware, and you can already see here, by some of the SAP entitlements listed as SAP roles and profiles, can be difficult to understand for people who are not well versed in SAP. But we make it easy for the people to find the right access and to understand what that access means in terms of meaningful business context. So I can simply search for create customer records. So it's important to note a couple of things you're seeing here. We fully index the entitlements and their descriptions so that the user can find the right access simply by searching. We can pull in the description as it is exists in SAP or augment them with the description in the SailPoint. Either way, we are making it easier for people, especially people that may not be well versed in SAP. So in this case, I'm simply going to select a single SAP role here, which is create customer records. And yet again, keep in mind that Aaron doesn't yet have an SAP account. And all I am requesting here is an access to SAP role, right? So I just select it and click on next. So this is a review screen and I just submit. So you will notice a couple of things here. Number one, we are not requiring any approvals on this request, just to save some time on the demonstration. But we can configure single or multiple approvals based on the items being requested. Also, as a requester, I can track my request here. And if there were any approvals waiting, this is where I could see those. I'm not going into that process now. Now let's look at the identity of Aaron. So I go back to view identity, select Aaron. And if you look at his accounts, you could see an SAP account has been assigned to the user in production. And if I drill down to the details, you could see it's a dialog account where you can log into SAP and perform certain functions. And certain attributes of the user, like first name, last name, department, country, all those things are automatically provisioned to the SAP system by SailPoint. And if I look at his access, you could also see, apart from the other accesses he have in other applications, he's also assigned with a create customer records roles within SAP as well. So now you have seen our capabilities around, just a minute, provisioning, lifecycle management, access request and approval process. So let's discuss a bit on our governance capabilities around segregation of duties. And to set the stage for that, let's look at the details of this SAP role assigned to Alan. If you look at, if I click on that particular SAP role, and if I click on object properties, you could clearly see the T codes and authorization objects assigned to this role. When we connect to SAP and read and pull in those roles, we are also pulling in down to the permission level. We can pull in all the T codes and authorization objects associated with each of the roles and profiles. So let me go back to home now. So now let's step forward a bit in time and say that we want to request some additional access for Aaron. Let's say that we want to request access for him to be able to process invoice within SAP. So I click on manage user access. I'm going to initiate the same process I did before. My request access process in this case on behalf of Aaron, and I want to be able to request access for have him get access to process invoice. So I click on Aaron and click on next. And I'm going to search for that particular access, which is process invoice, and click on search. So I'm requesting to give him access to also process invoice. I'm sure most of you know that that would represent a very risky combination of access in any system might be able to create customer records and invoice for those customers. Remember, this user already have create customer records job function within SAP. And I'm going to click on next. And I'm going to submit. As I submit the request, what you're seeing here is our ability to define segregation of duty policies and apply them as a preventive control. And if I click on this rule, we prevented this access violation from occurring because we have an SOD policy configured in SailPoint at the permission level, T codes in this case, that defines the conflict between having any combination of SAP roles and profiles that would grant access to both of these T codes. But note that we have ability to define these policies down to the authorization object level in SAP. Let me close this. And there is another important note here as well. This is obviously something SAP GRC can do as well. We do provide native integration with SAP GRC access control. So instead of defining this policy and preventing this violation within SailPoint, we can delegate this request to GRC access control using GRC's native interface. Once the decision is returned from GRC, a workflow path within SailPoint will be followed based on the risk decision that was made in GRC. So the point here is that if you have a GRC already, we can help you leverage on that investment as well. The another key thing which I want to highlight here is the power and the value of our policy engine particularly shines when we need to apply preventive and detective controls across different applications. So what you have seen here is applying SODs within SAP, but we have capability to enforce SODs across the application as well. For example, your create customer records could be sitting in SAP, and process invoice function could be sitting in a third-party ERP solution, somewhere sitting in a cloud. We could enforce SODs across that as well. Okay, so lastly, let's cover the other core aspects of our governance platform as it relates to SAP and its access review. So we have spoken a lot so far about providing meaningful business context to the users when requesting access. It's just as important to do so for people responsible with reviewing the existing access so that they can make informed decisions on who should have access to what, especially for platforms with complex access models like SAP. So oftentimes it's managers that are tasked with performing periodic access review for the reportees. But you could extend this for other reviewers like SAP application owners, risk and compliance officers, as well as department administrator. This is easily configurable in the system as well. So in this case, Jerry Bennett is configured as a manager who is responsible to review the access of his reportees. So once a certification campaign is triggered in the system, the Jerry would see a certification pending in his inbox. You could see here. I am going to click on that. As I select this access review from my dashboard, the first thing you will notice is we have separate tabs for items to be reviewed. One is important, the other one is open. Important will show up when you trigger an access review and check the box for include policy violations. That will provide with the managers to see existing policy violations of their employees and to choose whether or not to continue or allow it or to revoke it. Here you could see 3 violations. The first violation is within using SAP authorization object. The second violation you could see it's across T codes. And the third violation, what you see here is across the application. You could see here by clicking on details. Here you could see that there is a violation across SAP and a third-party Oracle EBS application. In this case, I would like to resolve this violation. So I click on revoke. When I click on it, I will be presented with a choice. And as I click, select to remove one of this role and remove, and click on revoke, and click on save. It's important to know if my configuration as part of the access review includes a checkbox, process revokes immediately, SailPoint will connect to SAP through our native connector and take out the access and immediately resolve the violation. So once the manager attends to this important items, he can proceed with performing access reviews for other items for the employees as well and complete the access review process. Once this access review process is completed, an audit log will be maintained and you could generate reports based on this access review. Again, the other key feature is reporting. Please note that all the activities of the identities, whether it is employee creation, access request process, change of roles, every activity is audited within SailPoint and you could generate reports out of it. And SailPoints comes with around 60 plus out of the box reports and you have the flexibility to create other reports as well. For this demo purpose, I generated one report which showcase what are the different SAP violations existing in your enterprise. So I just click on that. And you could see some of the violations which are existing in your enterprise. For example, you could see 2 violations. One is between SAP accountant and receivables, as well as the other one is across master data and create customer accounts. And you can further drill down to the details of who is having those violations, as well as you can download this report in the form of PDF or CSVs as well. Lastly, I just want to talk about the capabilities around automation. I'm not going to showcase that because that is something which is happening in the backend. When an employee joins the organization, his record will be created in HR systems like SAP SuccessFactors, SAP HR, Workday, or any other third-party HR system. We have connectors for that. When an employee is added, we can immediately bring in that employee into SailPoint platform and automate his access across your SAP landscape and other enterprise application using the role metrics. Similarly, we can also realign his accesses in the enterprise in case employees get promoted or any organization changes happen to him. This will make sure that you are not left with any orphan accounts or dormant accounts or entitlement creeps within the organization. Also, when the employee leaves the organization, we can terminate his access across the applications in the enterprise as well. This will save your time, automate things, and improve the productivity within the organization. So let me go back to the slide. Okay, so now that you have seen some highlights of our integration capabilities, and again, focusing on how SailPoint comprehensive approach, the governance brings to bear the powerful lifecycle automation, policy enforcement, business-friendly context to managing SAP access. This demo environment uses our native SAP direct connector to a live SAP system. I also mentioned we provide native integration with SAP GRC. Those are just two of the many modules of the SAP ecosystem that we natively support. We provide native connectivity to other systems like SAP HR, HCM, HANA, GRC, SuccessFactors, ERP, and SAP Portal UME as well. And this list is growing as we continue to invest in broadening and deepening our integration with the SAP ecosystem, enabling our customers to rapidly integrate with even the most complex SAP environments, empowering our customers to establish effective governance for all users across all applications and across all data. Okay, with that, I'll complete my demonstration and we will have a Q&A session at the end of the webinar. I will hand it over this presentation to Barun. Barun, please take it over.
Thank you, Sobi. Hello, everyone. My name is Barun, and I'm a director with Turnkey in Singapore. Thanks, Sobi, for the wonderful demo, and thanks, Fiona, for sharing your experience working with SailPoint. That makes my job pretty easy. What I'm going to do is I'll summarize this session with an overview of a typical SAP landscape, talking about why we face these challenges that Fiona shared about. And I'm going to summarize those challenges and see how SailPoint addresses those challenges, what I think Sobi has just shown us using those use cases. So let's get on to it. And as Sobi mentioned, we can already see some of the questions that has been raised. So I think let me go through some of these slides, and then we will get back and try to answer those questions. So if you look at the typical SAP landscape that a customer or a company using SAP has, you have today a lot of cloud applications from SAP. It could be SAP SuccessFactors, it could be SAP S/4HANA on cloud, SAP Ariba, and so many other applications. We also have a lot of SAP on-prem applications. So S/4HANA can be on the premise. We also have SAP ECC application, the legacy GRC and BI and other applications as well. Now, in today's world, the way we access these applications are multifold. So you have the access through the traditional desktops and laptops. We can also access these applications through mobile devices like iPads and iPhones. And if you look in terms of different actors involved, we have, of course, the employees who are accessing the SAP applications. We also have our partners, contractors, as well as consultants who need to access the SAP system. Now, for all these actors, we have to manage different aspects for their relationship or interaction with SAP. So we need to onboard these actors onto the SAP system. Then these people, they may have different changes in the life cycle. So there might be a movement from one department to another department. People might be leaving the organization. So these are different HR events that needs to be managed in the SAP landscape. On top of it, most of the organizations, they will have certain SOD requirements. So we talked about the segregation of duties. We need to make sure that those are enforced when a user requires or requests for certain access in SAP. All these requests, they need to go through multiple approvals, maybe from the line manager, maybe from the role owner, maybe from the risk owners, but we need to have those approvals before the provisioning can be done in the SAP system. Then we have different reporting requirements. We want to visualize the access. We want to see who has been doing what in the system. And there is, of course, the certification requirement that Fiona talked about, which can be pretty cumbersome and pretty extensive in nature, considering the complex SAP landscape that we have got. On top of it, we have the auditors looking at SAP. SAP is often the key application in any enterprise, and auditors are always interested in making sure that this system is secure, the access is properly managed. So we have to address the auditing requirement in the SAP system. So the reason we have got all these complexities and challenges in the SAP is because of the entire nature of the application. There are multiple applications that we are talking about. It's not just talking about SAP ERP, but a variety of applications from SAP. They have different technologies. The authorization models are very complex. They can be hosted on cloud or on-premise. You have got different actors utilizing the system. So all this makes the SAP landscape pretty complex. Now, if you look at what are the challenges that this results in, what I'm trying to do is I'm summarizing the different things that Fiona talked about, and also so we try to demonstrate using those use cases. What we have, the biggest problem in SAP environment is managing the user access. So you have different actors, all of them require access to SAP system. SAP has a complex landscape, so we are not just talking about one system or one user account. Users may have multiple accounts across the development system, across the quality system, as well as the production system. There might be multiple clients, and their access could be different on all these applications. So we have to ensure that the access management is properly handled. As I mentioned, it's not just talking about the production system. We have to manage the access to the non-production systems as well. Password management is another challenge. So we are talking about multiple SAP systems with multiple user accounts. And if it comes to changing the password, it can be a bit of hassle for the user. Fiona talked about the user experience. So, as a user, I don't want to go and change my password across 5 or 8 different accounts. What we need is a mechanism where we can manage and synchronize those passwords and do it in a safe manner. Then we are talking about the lifecycle management. Users have different stages in the organization. They join, they move, they get transferred, and then finally they will leave the organization. They might get rehired. So we need to have a mechanism where we actually manage the entire lifecycle of users across different SAP environments in a very secure manner. The audits, as I mentioned, SAP is often the crown jewel in any enterprise IT landscape, and auditors are always focused on looking at SAP. So we need to manage the SAP audit requirements, which is often focused on segregation of duties requirements. So we talked about how SailPoint manages the SOD, and also auditors are interested in the access review. Fiona talked about the challenges in terms of the complexity of the access certification in SAP. Add to that different upgrades and migrations. So SAP releases patches. Some of them are related to security. Some of them are related to functionalities. They need to be upgraded in the current environment. A lot of companies are going through migrations to S/4HANA. That adds more complexity to the entire landscape. So we need to make sure that the upgrades and migrations are properly taken care of. Role-based access is a key concept in SAP. We have technical roles. Those are something that users often do not understand. We need to group them into a business role concept and make sure that it's easier for users to understand the roles that they require, the access that they require, and that is what the role-based access control is all about. On top of it, we have the automation requirements. So RPA is not something uncommon for SAP these days. So a lot of companies are creating bots to do certain activities within SAP. So it's important to note that when we talk about identities in SailPoint, it's not just referring to the person or a unique identity related to a person, but also talking about bots as well as service and generic accounts. And finally, all this also means that there's a big challenge in terms of having a visibility. So you're talking about users having multiple access across different SAP systems. They change their life stages, so they're joining, they're moving, their access is taken out, they're granted new access. All this creates a problem in terms of having a clear visibility of users' entitlements and access in the SAP system. So what SailPoint does is that it tries to address all these different challenges and many more with its different functionalities. So if you start looking at it from a solution perspective, we have the SailPoint provisioning, which Sobi demonstrated a while back, which addresses the access management. It provides an easy to use interface to the users to request for access within SailPoint. We also have the SailPoint access request, which is basically working with provisioning, providing the workflows for approvals for SOD checks as well. Then we have SailPoint policy management, which helps us write down the SOD requirements. So we talked about SOD within the SAP system as well as cross-application SODs. Those are all configured in the SailPoint through the policy management functionalities. The SailPoint access review helps us with the access certification. It makes it easier for line managers to visualize the access that their subordinates have got. It makes it easier for reviewers to see what the access is. And as Sobi demonstrated, they can deprovision by simply revoking the access from the same interface. SailPoint provides a password management functionality, which basically helps us request for a password reset through a common interface. It also helps to synchronize the password across different SAP accounts so that users don't have to remember or reset multiple passwords across different environments. On top of that, we saw the identity warehouse in SailPoint. That's the warehouse where we can see all the identities, see what access or entitlements they have got, which are the applications they have got access to, what are the SOD violations, and so on. So SailPoint provides multiple dashboards and reporting options, which basically takes care of various governance requirements. So this is essentially the different solutions from SailPoint to address different challenges that we talked about. Fiona talked about some of these. She talked about how these challenges have led Aurora to look for SailPoint as a solution. So this is basically a summary of all the different features that we have talked so far. Okay, just to finally summarize this whole solution. So the way SailPoint works is is a concept of identity. So Sobi was showing us the identity of this person called Aaron. So identity is nothing but a centralized visibility of a person inside the solution. So what it does is that it will bring in all the information about the person from the HR sources as well as other sources like Active Directory. So it can get the information about the person along with the line manager from the HR source. It can get the information about the user IDs and the email IDs from the Active Directory. And it can do it not just for one SAP system, but basically all the different SAP systems across all the environment, not just the production system, but also the non-production system. And just to top of it, it doesn't only look at SAP, it can do it for all the non-SAP systems that is there in the enterprise. Okay. So just to finally summarize why we talk about identity governance, what is it that SailPoint brings in to solve these different challenges? So first of all, SailPoint provides a centralized view, insight into different SAP as well as non-SAP solutions. It helps with a self-service option, so users don't need to rely on IT to give them the access. They have the access request portal within SailPoint. They can go and request the access. We saw how user friendly that option is, and they can request for the access, which can be workflowed after the approval. The access can be automatically provisioned to the user. The HR onboarding is pretty efficient with SailPoint. So when a user joins, using the connection between the HR system and SailPoint, the user IDs can be automatically created. All the default or birthright access already provisioned to the user when they join and come to the work. It can prevent the entitlement creep by making sure that when the user changes their role, the access gets changed accordingly. When they leave, whatever access needs to be taken out, the user accounts revocation, all those things can be automated. And again, this is not just for SAP production system, it's for all the different SAP production, non-production system, as well as for non-SAP systems. Okay, just a final word before we get into the question and answer. So Turnkey is a partner of SailPoint. We work very closely across the globe, and we basically help our clients develop the identity governance strategy, implement IAM solution. We also help configure different functionalities around SailPoint, such as identity provisioning, lifecycle management, access certification, as well as password management. This entire solution basically reduces the cost of administrating access control across SAP and non-SAP system. It provides a complete visibility of enterprise-wide access for the users. It improves the productivity of the employees, as well as we can provide as Turnkey IAM resources on demand to take care of any specific requirement that you may have. Okay, so this is all I had to share. As I said, it's just a summary of what Fiona and Sobi has talked about. I think given the time that we have got, we can probably get into the question and answer and take some of those. Fiona?
Thanks, Varun. So we will now go ahead and take some time for questions now. Just a reminder, please be sure to type your questions into the question box in your Zoom control panel. And during the presentations, we already received a few questions from the floor. So this one, we have a question from Sean Lee around, have you done any integrations between SAP, Workday, Assignment Pro, and Salesforce applications?
Am I able to see it in the chat box? Some Sean.
It's in the chat box instead of Q&A. The integrations between SAP, Workday, Assignment Pro, and Salesforce applications.
Yes, we have connectors for Workday as well as the Salesforce. We have out-of-the-box connectors for that. Does that answer?
Yes.
So we can do integration with that, yes.
Okay, and a question from an anonymous attendee. Is there an option to unlock a SAP user in SailPoint due to inactivity? Because our users use single sign-on for deactivate users. Is it a bit of pain to get the access reinstated?
Yes, so as part of our SailPoint SAP connector, we can perform the activities like create accounts, update accounts, lock accounts, unlock accounts, okay? So in case the SAP account get locked in the end SAP system, we could initiate the unlock process from SailPoint so that SailPoint can connect to the SAP system and unlock it. That's possible.
Okay, and we have this question from Michael Greger. Can you high-level compare SailPoint Identity Now to the native SAP solution, SAP GRC Access Control? What the advantages of using SailPoint Identity Now for SAP environments instead of SAP GRC Access Controls?
Okay, so we don't intend to replace any SAP GRC solution in the market. Okay, SAP GRC can do different other functions as well, but the value of SailPoint, as we clearly explained, right? We can enforce cross application SOD, right? That is one of the key value point, because some business functions could be sitting in SAP and other business functions could be sitting in another application. So we can enforce cross SOD in SailPoint, okay? And we could also have a very business friendly interface in SailPoint to perform access requests, access reviews. And if you look at SAP, right? The entitlement list, the accesses are very complex to understand. Okay, so we can make it very simple for the business users, as explained by Fiona and Baron as well. Okay, so these are some of the key value propositions, right? And again, if you take access review, access review process in GRC is pretty complex. We make it much simpler. We can provide more business context into the access review and request process as well. Okay.
So, Sobi, just to add on to that, we have worked with a lot of SAP clients using both SAP GRC as well as SailPoint. So what we normally see is that these are two complementary solutions, and there are certain things which can be handled better with GRC, and it's also very specific to the processes or the client's governance requirements. So Sobi did talk about the technicalities about what can be done and cannot be done with GRC, but we often see clients using both GRC as well as SailPoint working together, addressing the specific challenges that the particular implementation presents. So it is very specific to the governance requirement, but we often see both of them working together to provide the end solution to the client.
Thanks, Varun.
Thanks. And if the organization doesn't have SAP GRC, or they just simply doesn't have any GRC, does SailPoint able to manage SOD?
Yes, the answer is yes. We as I shown, we can enforce SODs as at role, T codes, and authorization object level. That is possible.
Another question from Chris Bianto. Can SailPoint identity now integrate with SAP SSO for user provisioning?
Okay. Okay, so we could, SAP SSO, it in fact use the repository of SAP for user authentication, right? So we could use our native connector to provision accounts into the SAP system so that SAP SSO can be triggered. And the answer is yes. Using our direct connector, we could actually provision that.
How do you restrict SOD dashboard on department-wise?
I'm not very clear on that question. What do you mean by how do we restrict SODs department-wide?
Sobi, my best guess is that we need to restrict the visibility of a manager to only the SOD conflicts within their department or their subordinates.
Okay, as part of a reporting process, or
as part of the reporting?
Okay, so we can assign certain SODs. There is a concept called scoping and delegation model within SailPoint. So we could utilize those capabilities. Okay, so scoping and delegation make sure that who can see what within the SailPoint, right? The scoping will make sure to which department you want to assign this capability to, right? So using these capabilities, we can actually manage that, who can see what within SailPoint.
Can this tool provision multiple AD connection?
Definitely, yes. We have many customers doing that. So we can configure different instances of same connector, which is AD connector, probably AD1 and AD2. And yes, we can do that.
So a very typical situation would be, let's say, depending on the entity or the department information, we want the user to be provisioned to two different Active Directories. So as long as we maintain that information, the HR, it is also possible to automatically provision to the correct Active Directory.
Yes, so we can configure that.
Great, thanks. Concerned department, if they want to attach their mitigation process document, where they can attach it?
As part of the request process?
Mitigation process.
Oh, so that's the thing. As part of our SailPoint, we cannot do risk mitigation and analysis, okay? We can only enforce SODs, okay? If we want to do mitigation and risk analysis, we need to rely on systems like SAP GRC. Okay, we can only propose what are the mitigation controls and compensation controls, but we cannot really put that, enforce that mitigations on in SAP platform, in the SailPoint platform.
Thanks, Sobi. If the client is required T code to be taken, is it possible for SailPoint instead of role in SAP?
Yes. So how it works is, even if you look at SAP GRC, right? If you want to request for a T code, you really have to create an SAP role within SAP GRC as well. That's how it works. Okay. So how it works in SailPoint is, we bring in all roles, T codes, authorization objects into SailPoint. And if you remember my demonstration, user was able to request for certain access in the catalog, right? There he could also search for T codes, okay? And when you search for T codes, it will bring in all the SAP roles which contain the T codes, and you need to request for that SAP role. Ultimately, once the user is assigned, the T code will be indirectly assigned to the user as well.
But just to be clear, so in terms of the actual provisioning, the provisioning happens at the role or profile level. So transaction code cannot be provisioned directly to the user.
Absolutely. But that's true for GRC as well, right?
Exactly.
If you want to,
exactly.
Yeah. Even for GRC, if you want to, you cannot directly assign a T code. You need to create a role and embed it in a, you need to assign a T code to the role, then only role can be assigned. It's the same concept applied in SailPoint as well.
Exactly.
But
so it is
from
not
a search
possible.
perspective, you can search with the T codes and SailPoint, and then you can assign that role that is attached to that T code.
We have another question from Chris Miato. If we have multiple SAP systems, such as SAP ECC, SAP BW, SAP CRM, can SailPoint SOD feature address SOD across the system?
Absolutely, yes. So that is one of the key, the power of SailPoint is you can enforce SODs across different systems. So if you have multiple ECC systems, we can configure different SAPs as a different application instance, and we can enforce that SODs across these applications. That is possible, absolutely possible.
Okay, thanks. I see that we are running out of time and there are still some questions around the licensing issues. We will have people getting back to you after these sessions on how the license works. And just before we wrap up, I would like to call for Fiona Cullen. If there is a single most important advice that you can share with enterprises that have not started their journey on SAP governance, is there an advice that you can share with them?
It would probably be something that I touched on a little bit earlier, Fiona, and that's really just to try and start small, keep it simple, and get that buy-in from all of your stakeholders, get them familiar with the products, and then really once everybody's comfortable with the features, start building upon that. But don't try and boil the ocean would be my one piece of advice. There's a lot of exciting features about the product, but my advice would just be to keep it simple to begin with, get that buy-in, and then you can rapidly grow and develop from there.
Thanks, Fiona, and thanks everyone. We appreciate you being here. If there are any more questions and inquiries, please contact us at apac_sales@sailpoint.com. It will take some time for the recordings to be available, and our reps will be sending out the recordings for your playback and also the presentation deck for your reference afterwards. Thanks all.
Fiona, can I just make one more point? Sorry, it's Fiona Cullen here. I didn't point out at the beginning of the process that we had engaged with Turnkey Australia as our implementation partners. So I just wanted to make sure that everybody was aware that Aurora had engaged with Turnkey and very happy with the outcome there. So I just wanted to let you know that we've got that experience, not just with SailPoint, but with Turnkey as well.
Thanks for mentioning that, Fiona.
Thanks, Fiona. Thank you all for joining us today, and we will see you next time.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Thank you.